before the first shot was ever fired, before bombs fell from the sky or ships disappeared beneath the ocean. A different kind of war had already begun. It was a war fought in silence, without explosions or smoke, only invisible waves crossing the atmosphere. These waves carried signals that would decide who lived and who died. While the world prepared for a conflict of tanks, planes, and soldiers, the United States was helping to pioneer a new form of warfare, one that was colder, more calculated, and far more terrifying. This was a war fought not just with weapons, but with the ability to see the enemy before they even knew they'd been discovered. This was the birth of invisible warfare, and at its heart was one revolutionary technology: radar. At the start of World War II, radar was still largely experimental. Many dismissed it as a fascinating scientific tool, not a decisive weapon. But war has a way of forcing innovation, and urgency quickly turned theory into a matter of survival. American scientists, working in close partnership with British researchers, pushed radar development forward at a speed no one thought possible. The concept was deceptively simple: send radio waves out into the air, let them travel across vast distances, and then analyze the echoes that bounced back after hitting an object. From those faint echoes came distance, direction, speed, and altitude. For the first time in history, warfare was no longer limited by the human eye. Technology had learned to see through darkness, fog, and the dead of night in the skies. This innovation completely transformed aerial combat. Before radar, pilots relied almost entirely on visual contact, which made nighttime operations chaotic and incredibly dangerous. But with radar, American forces could detect enemy aircraft long before they were visible, sometimes while they were still dozens of miles away. Enemy bombers could no longer approach under the cover of darkness. Surprise! One of the oldest and most powerful advantages in warfare was steadily being neutralized. Air combat was no longer just a test of reflexes and bravery. It became a battle of signals, calculations, and reaction time. A pilot's survival now depended as much on the blips on a screen as on their skill in a dogfight. But it was over the vast, unforgiven oceans that radar revealed its most devastating impact. In the early years of the war, German U-boats, the infamous wolf packs, ruled the Atlantic. Hidden beneath the waves, they sank vital supply ships with terrifying efficiency, threatening to choke off the lifelines to Europe. Every convoy that set sail from North America was a gamble against an unseen enemy. That deadly balance of power shifted dramatically when the United States integrated radar into its ships and long-range patrol aircraft. Submarines, once the invisible hunters of the deep, suddenly became detectable targets. The very ocean that had offered them perfect concealment now became a deadly, transparent trap. This shift fundamentally changed the nature of naval warfare. American aircraft could now scan enormous stretches of the sea, identifying threats and directing precision attacks. Ships no longer sailed blindly into danger. They knew where the enemy was, where they were moving, and when to strike. Victory at sea no longer belonged solely to the side with more firepower. It belonged to the side with superior information. Every glowing mark that appeared on a radar screen represented danger, opportunity, or death, and the ability to interpret those signals became as critical as any cannon or torpedo. The psychological impact of radar was just as profound. For enemy forces, the comforting sense of invisibility vanished. Darkness, storms, and distance no longer offered reliable protection. The sky and sea, once allies, now felt like open, exposed spaces. Knowing that detection could happen at any moment, from an unseen source miles away, created a constant, draining tension. Fear became a weapon in itself. War no longer began when the first shot was fired. It began the moment a signal appeared on a screen. Countless battles were effectively decided before soldiers ever laid eyes on their enemy. This was a new, impersonal form of conflict, where the fight was often won or lost in the quiet, tense atmosphere of a radar room. Radar also revolutionized coordination on a global scale. Air bases, naval fleets, and command centers became interconnected through vast networks of information. Attacks were planned with a level of precision that was previously unimaginable. Defenses were activated seconds before an incoming raid, not minutes after. Warfare became faster, deadlier, and strangely more detached. Decisions made by operators, staring at glowing screens in a dark room, could determine the fate of thousands of people they would never see, fighting battles they would never witness firsthand. The battlefield was expanding beyond physical space into the electromagnetic spectrum. By the end of World War II, it was clear that radar had done more than just help win battles. It had permanently altered the very DNA of war. The battlefield was no longer purely physical. It had become electronic, invisible, and continuous. Victory now depended on detection, interpretation, and rapid response. The side that could see without being seen, that could process information faster, held the ultimate advantage. World War II wasn't just a war of industrial might and destruction. It was a war of perception, and the revolution that began in those years didn't end in 1945. The legacy of wartime radar is all around us today. It's the foundation of modern air defense, air traffic control, maritime navigation, and even space exploration. The satellites that orbit our planet, the guided missiles that define modern arsenals, and the global surveillance systems that watch over us all trace their origins back to this pivotal technology. The modern world exists within invisible networks of detection born from that conflict. The story of radar proves that the most powerful weapons aren't always the ones that make the loudest noise. Some weapons change the world in complete silence. They don't appear in heroic photographs or victory parades, but they shape every single decision made on the battlefield and beyond. The invisible war that began in the 1940s is still being fought today, quietly operating all around us in ways we rarely notice. And perhaps that is its greatest and most sobering lesson. When war becomes invisible, it has already begun, and by the time we finally see it, the future may have already been decided. Thanks for watching. If you found this look into the hidden history of technology interesting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that changed our world. See you next time.